any of y'all ever end up in Nashville, Tennessee, make sure to get a Black Abbey. Delicious. So I've already reviewed The Orchard Keeper and Outer Dark by Cormac McCarthy, and let's keep it going, y'all. Let's keep it going. Next, we're going to talk about Child of God, which, just to get it out there, just to be clear, I recognize that a lot of people find this to be their favorite out of his early novels, especially out of his first three. And I could see why that's the case. It's very easy to read. It's very quick. It goes by in a flash. You want to, it's a page turner. You want to keep going, keep going, keep going. But y'all, this might be my least favorite Cormac McCarthy book. And here's why. I feel like this book lacks, out of all of his books, you might say all of his books are pretty depraved. They're all pretty terrifying. They're all sort of a gut punch, nihilistic. You might say that about his novels. But there's also, in every single one of his books, there's also just a deep undercurrent of a lot of other things going on. And unfortunately, I feel like this one doesn't have anything underneath the gross, nasty crap that's in it. And that's my main problem with the book, and a reason why I just don't have any interest in returning to it, whereas all of his other books I do. So let's talk about this. So Child of God is about Lester Ballard. He is a lost, deranged man in East Tennessee, lives in the hills, and he's sort of an outcast of society. And the more he is portrayed as an outcast, the more that he is accused of being crazy and an outcast. Basically, the more that he believes it and the more that he falls prey to his own inner desires, which, as you start reading the book, you'll realize is pretty dang gross. Lester Ballard is a necrophiliac. He loves to sleep with dead bodies. He loves to kill girlfriends in cars and take them to his little secret hut and hang them in rafters and watch as the house burns down, and just in time he tries to rescue the girl and his pet animals that he wins at a carnival. And he does this, and then he eventually stays in this cave where there's hundreds of dead bodies that he sleeps with, and by the end he gets chased down by some people and he turns himself into a hospital, and then he dies, and his body's dissected, and then a farmer finds the cave full of the bodies. And that's pretty much the story of Child of God. So yeah, obviously there's more to it than that, but that's the basic premise. And if you want to get deeper into it, which, okay, this is a book review, I'll get deeper into it. Cormac sort of tries, I think, to make you empathize with Lester, obviously. Otherwise, what's the point? What is the point that he wrote this? Which maybe there isn't a point, because it famously, when James Franco, who adapted this into a movie, asked Cormac, why did you write this? Cormac just said, I don't know, man, probably some dumbass reason. So maybe this is just one of Cormac's nightmares that he wanted to write about, and there's no deeper meaning behind it, and it's just one of those dumb books that he thought would be fun to write, and it's just grotesque and evil and gross. Maybe that's it. But us Cormac McCarthy fans always like to dive deeper, so I think as deep as you can get into this book, as far as my interpretation, is that the title itself has a lot to say about what you could say about this. Child of God. Early on in the novel it says Lester Ballard is a child of God, much like yourself perhaps. Cormac talking to the reader. It's a tough question in our faith, well, in religion, of if we're all children of God, why are some people so despicable and evil and other people are, Mother Teresa's? And yet, Christians especially, I think that's mostly who Cormac is aware of while writing this stuff, especially since this story takes place in the Bible Belt. Christians sometimes, I believe, forget about the core of the belief, which is every human being is a child of God, is a creation of God. So the main question is, why do some people do such terrible things? And you can get into theology and talk about sin, you can talk about, the fall and Adam and Eve and all that stuff. But I think just a simple challenge that Cormac is bringing here is, aside from the actions that Lester does, you and Lester are not so different. You both come from the same place. You're both the same species. You both have the same mental capabilities. Maybe, and that might actually be debatable. I, for one, am not personally into what Lester's into, but there are a lot of people in this world that are. And so it challenges you a little bit to empathize with him and to ask yourself, what would I do if I lived in this town? How would I talk to Lester? Would I try to help him? Would I want to throw him in prison? Would I want to kill this guy? There's a lot of questions like that you could ask. So those are some positives. I mean, the writing is obviously terrific. It's Cormac McCarthy. I did find it very simple, easy to read. It's a page turner. It's not terribly hard to follow. It's a lot. I mean, this might be his pulpiest book. I mean, this and No Country for Old Men are they're very fast. They move very fast. They're not very demanding of your intellect. There's some really beautiful language in here. The dialogue is great, and it's just not that hard to follow. I remember starting it, and then a couple days later being like almost done. I was like, wow, this is a quick read, y'all. As far as the positives about it, it can be maybe a little challenging if you want it to be. As far as the question of the title, Child of God, what does this mean? Does Lester Ballard have any chance for redemption? By the end of the story, when he checks himself into the insane asylum, does that mean that he finally feels ready to change himself, or is he just still crazy? What does it all mean? Maybe it's all just gross. Maybe Cormac just wrote this for a dumbass reason. You can get into all those things, and I respect the people that think that this is his best of his first three, but I do still stand by that Outer Dark is the best and the most mentally stimulating. And Orchard Keeper, while not as poppy and not as maybe immediately eye-catching and like stimulating, I think the Orchard Keeper, I'm more interested in returning to that than this one, just because that one I feel like has a little more nuance, and this one is just feels a little bit more like B-movie horror grossness. This is my least favorite Cormac McCarthy book. That's just my own opinion. I'm sorry for all y'all Cormac McCarthyans out there who love this one, but this one's not my favorite. I would put it at the bottom of the list, and but it's still Cormac, so I would recommend you check this one out. But if you're going to start with Cormac, don't start with this one. I would start with All the Pretty Horses, or No Country for Old Men, or The Road, or I started with Blood Meridian, so I would say start with that, but maybe work your way up to it. But yeah, don't start with this one. So yeah, y'all, decent book overall, but as far as Cormac's works go, not the best. I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day out there. Just to reiterate, the main negative I feel like of this book is there's a lot of grossness. There's a lot of that nihilism that Cormac's known for, but there's not that deeper well that you can draw into. Like when you talk about books like The Road, yes, it's nihilist, yes, it's negative, yes, it's depressing, but that book made me cry by the end, and I felt so much love between the father and the son in that book. Blood Meridian, yes, it's a nihilistic tragedy, but anyone who reads that knows that it's more than that. The Crossing, depressing, melancholic as heck, but also one of his most moving, powerful books. One of the most powerful pieces of art I've ever encountered in my life. This one is just gross. And if you're into books about guys who are walking around roaming the countryside looking for dead girls to sleep with, and looking to go to some carnivals to win some stuffed tigers, then you'll like this one. But other than that, I'm going to talk about Suttree next, so got some real reading to do. Take care.